Hello YouTube peers, this is Green Ray. It's also known as Spy Ray or Spy Andrew. So today I want to do a different kind of video. Let's see here. What does this button do? I thought it would switch the camera over. Anyways, so we have here, oh my goodness, I can't see what it's looking at. Is there a way to flip that over? What does this button do? I don't know why it's stuck on this. Let's hit stop. Okay, so if I stop the recording, I can, anyways, there's some soaking dishes, and so I'm gonna clean these dishes, and after I do that, I'm going to use various ingredients to make some food. Potentially could use those. Anyway, so I've been using this thing to grind up these, and it also helps with this stuff as well. So I guess set the phone here, and that's maybe not the best angle, but anyway, so I've got a washcloth here that I can use to scrub. Start with the frying pan, which should be easier because it's right out the mouth. Probably not really the best angle here, but this is why I usually wouldn't do this, because I do low quality videos. I know in-person videos like this, even if they're not the best, have generally done better for me than other ones. Like anybody can stream and play a game and talk about it. There's so many gamers out there, people don't really care about that. When it comes to making food, I guess in some ways I'm a lot more unique than a lot of other people. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but at least it should be interesting to some. So, oh yeah, I didn't really do that. Actually, I'm not sure how well you can even hear my voice over the sound of the water. But as I was saying, this stuff I ran out of, so I can't cook with this. But what I will oftentimes do is cook with this ingredient. And this other ingredient as the main ingredients for what I'm about to cook today. But today I only have this. I'll just be cooking with this only. I ordered more of both of those things in any case, so they should be coming probably today. And I'll have to go to the locker and pick those things up. So now to wash this stuff. that should take care of that. Now there's just the bowl to do. I only end up using soap. The only time I use soap when I clean is when I've covered over some food to keep the moisture from escaping, because then without the moisture escaping, then the food tends to get the bacteria of it or whatever, like they start populating and whatever. But if it's just dried food, then bacteria don't like it as much. There's less smelliness going on. Therefore, the dish doesn't smell, so there's no need to use soap. Anyway, the dish is clean. So, alright, we're gonna go ahead and show what we got set up here. Oh yeah, sometimes I also use this butter too. I don't really know if this is a brand that people usually use or not. This is palm oil. Okay, I wasn't even sure what kind of oil it was. I'm not even sure if palm oil necessarily tells us a whole lot about what we want to know about what it is. But anyway, yeah, those are the 3 different oils I've been using: palm, shea, and cacao oil, butters and oils. Anyways, I used to use this stuff, hemp powder, protein powder, but I've switched over to the shelled hemp seeds instead. And so I grind it into powder myself, and actually the result is the calorie, whatever you want to call it, like calorie source percentages are like different or whatever that's called, like the ratios of like fat and carbohydrates and proteins. That's what this is with the protein powder. And so I filled this container actually with these. Anyway, so bust this open. And I guess I made it stop recording. Anyway, so basically pour this into here. And then grind it up. This will be rather loud. Actually, I usually pour more of it in there than that, but that should be fine. I usually would pour in about this amount if it were the sunflower kernels. They're harder to grind up if you have too much in there, but because these are smaller, I can get away with pouring more in, so that's what I do. Not really sure how to set this up. I guess I could try leaning it on here and see if we can get a good shot of it that way. That might work. Not really sure how in the picture this is, but that should be good. Get that sealed up. Yeah, so the nice thing about this stuff is there's omega-3 and 6 fatty acids in there. Well, I didn't show you guys the ratio, fat and carbohydrate and protein. So I don't know if you can read that right now, but that's what that is. Anyways, and pretty different. There's notably a lot more fat and a lot less carb in this. So actually, it kind of needs minimal smashing, if that's the right word. Like straight downward thrusting. It needs less of that, and needs like both of them are going to need a good amount of spinning around with this thing, whether it's the sunflower kernels or these things. But because these things are small enough, like I think you get most of the work done just by the twirling around or spinning or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, and because the fat content is so high in this stuff, it tends to stick to the sides a lot more readily, or just sticking to the jar in general, or bowl, or whatever we're calling this grinding thing. Anyways, I think they call this like a mortar and a pestle or something. I'm not sure which is which. I guess the bowl is the mortar, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't really matter to me. The way people name things is pretty weird sometimes. Anyways, so I need some water in here. Well, might end up adding more water later. All that stuff in a little. Who knows when that stuff will happen. So, I get the chives in there. So just pour them in like that. I don't know, once again, if you can see that very well or not. The amount of chives I put in there is not particularly important. Usually I'd put in a little bit less than this, but sometimes I put in this much or maybe a little more. I have tried putting in lots more than this, but I don't really end up liking how it turns out when I put in much more than this. Anyway, and so that's what this looks like, and so I'll be pouring this in there. It's really hard to do the camera work when cooking at the same time. Anyway, so I don't know if this is a good angle or not, but here we go. I really love the smell of the chives. It's really nice. And another thing I could do too, if I'm getting tired of using this tool, is just use my fingers. So I'm going to take my thumb and wipe the sides, kind of like wiping a jar of mayonnaise or peanut butter or something with like a knife or a spoon or something. Wiping the remnants out of there. There's a lot of, because of the high fat content, like I said, it's very sticky to the bowl, so end up doing this a lot. Some of it might be pretty loose, but then it's like, it's sometimes the loose parts could get stuck on the sticky parts just by me not tilting the bowl at proper angles or whatever. Anyways, all right. Oh yeah, another ingredient I have not been using much at all. Kind of forgot about it. I think that's because I switched to the new hemp with more fat in it. But this is another source of fat I could put into my food if I want. Actually, let's put in a little bit today. I don't know if my body really likes eating this or not. Maybe it doesn't, but anyway, it doesn't smell amazing. It doesn't smell good either. Anyway, so we're kind of running out of shea butter in this package, so I'm going to open up the package. I might end up doing some, a lot of trimming, I suppose, with the video, maybe not, I don't know. I'm not even sure. I hope my phone can record all of this without running out of space or whatever. Anyway, Just want to do like a YouTube video of me cooking for once, because I haven't really ever done it. I've taken like pictures of like the finished product, you know, quite a few times. Anyway, this is what this bag looks like. It's I probably put in a little bit too much of this, but it's probably okay. I guess if I put in this much, I don't really need to add cacao butter or palm oil, perhaps. Depends on how much I really went in there, but anyway, I don't really know where I'm going with this. Alright, I'm nearly out of teff, so yeah. This is actually, we're down to the last bag. So as for how much of different things I use, I've been using anywhere between like, I want to say maybe like a third and a half or so of the bag at a time, something like that. Yeah, I don't really have the recipe down to, you know, very mathematical science or whatever you want to call it. I'm just sort of winging it most of the time. Anyway, that is how much we have in there now. Some of this is that butter though, of course. This part here, just like, so you can see the chives stuck to the butter. Anyways, so I'll be stirring this around like that. Trying to, you know, get the flour, get it all wet basically. That's gonna take a while. And I can add water if I need to, and eventually I'll get it cooking. I think before we get it cooking, we need to add ginger and turmeric, if we're going to add those. We don't necessarily have to. I think with the ingredients that we put in there, we basically have a ready set of ingredients. Like, it can all be cooked. And it'll be fine as it is without additional ingredients. I do like the extra kick that adding stuff like ginger and turmeric can give to it. So I think we're going to add in just a little ginger here. I might actually add a lot more teff here. I'm not really sure. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I should, like, I feel like I should cook more often and cook with smaller portions or something. Anyway, I'll just show you guys how much ginger I put in, I guess. Now, one of these jars, I'm leaning it into make sure the turmeric and all that. It's like unstable now. There we go. So the turmeric jar looks like that, like I wrote down on it with an orange pen. Just turmeric in there. And inside, you know, there's turmeric. It's basically from one of those Terrasol bags. Same brand. There's the cacao butter. Anyway. Whoa, knocked those over. So, not sure how well this is capturing anything. We'll try that angle and see how good that is. Pull out of the way a little bit here. Alright, one thing I like to do is I like to slice up the shea butter using the spatula and just try to distribute it throughout the frying pan. I think if I was making it with palm oil or butter or whatever, it'd be pretty easy to, it would be a little easier to cook with, because it's quite a bit softer generally, unless it's like gotten too cold or something. Anyway, shea butter is still like, I would say it doesn't necessarily melt super quickly like the cacao butter seems to do, but it also doesn't, like, when you're not trying, I'm not sure how I want to explain that. Like, it's softer whether it's cold or not than the cacao butter is. Let's put it that way, right? So even though it's like nowhere near melted right now, and it's not going to until I give it a decent amount of heat, like I can still distribute it throughout the frying pan pretty easily, unlike cacao butter, which is very hard, right, before it melts. So, like, I don't know which one melts faster or whatever, but they both would need like cooking heat to actually start melting, basically, generally. And one thing I usually do, since I'm only cooking for myself anyways, I don't really have anybody that would care if I lick it. Like, gets it off of the spatula and back into the frying pan. I suppose maybe if I was married, maybe my wife wouldn't mind me doing this. I don't know. Because if we're kissing on a regular basis, then I would assume this would not be foul play. Of course, if I'm cooking for her, I might be using completely different ingredients. If that were the case, maybe I wouldn't even want to lick the ingredients. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more of this because I feel like the ratio is a little bit off. Maybe it's anywhere between like 1/3 and like 2/3 or something. I don't know how much I add usually, but like I said, I actually have some measuring cups, but I just have not been using them religiously. Part of the reason why I've been worried about using them, I actually was using another one, and the white part, the label of these cups, ended up wearing off very quickly. I know I shouldn't use that as an excuse to not use these to try to measure things, but at the same time, it's like I don't really feel a strong need to get the recipe right now. You know what I mean? I'm not publishing it at the moment, but I suppose maybe if this video does well and people ask about the recipe, then I can try and make something up and try to get more exact about specifications. Like, I don't know how many times I would try to cook it with the measuring cups, or spoons, or whatever we're calling them. Not sure how many, what am I trying to say, like how many times I would need to cook like that with those measuring before I come up with something that I think is, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say, like a sure recipe, something that I think other people would like or whatever, I don't know. And the butter, ended up slicing the butter with my teeth since the spatula was having difficulty doing that with it getting mixed in with everything else. It ends up like rolling around when you don't want it to. It can make it more difficult to slice. Okay, so there are definitely some advantages to using your mouth sometimes in cooking food. Okay, so that's all licked up and mixed around. So I have here, it's on the stove here. So I'm gonna set the temperature. So I like it anywhere between 6 and 8. We'll start off at about 7 maybe, and I might lower it a little bit. That tends to work out good for. There's the other person's cooking utensils I'm not bothering with. Just pull that a little bit towards me. Okay. And that is going to take some time. So while I'm waiting for it to cook, one thing that I've been doing lately is I've been taking some medicine before eating. I've been taking some aloe vera. I'm probably going to stop getting this particular brand. It's like more expensive than Lily of the Desert, and I don't know if it's really better or worse or whatever, but anyway, I want to say the texture for some of these aloe vera products could be different depending on what brand you get as well as what they're describing it as. This is being described as gel, but it's more like juice. Now, how do I want to explain it? So if you get the Lily of the Desert brand aloe vera, that might be the one you're most familiar with. I don't know, but they have like a juice variety and a gel variety. Although I've only ever gotten the inner fillet choices, which that might have an effect too, because this one says it's actually leaf rather than inner fillet, I believe. Anyway, so this is leaf gel, and it's somewhere in between inner fillet juice and gel, if that makes sense. In other words, it's not as it doesn't have as much solid matter as the Lily of the Desert gel that I've been drinking, but it's also not super liquidy either. The best way I can explain what this stuff is like is this stuff is kind of like yeah, see, it says leaf gel. Anyway, I don't know how well you can read any of that, but point is, the texture of this is actually a little bit more like what you would expect from juice that you would buy at the store, I would guess, is my best way of explaining it. Maybe like orange juice or something from concentrate or whatever. So just drink a bit, and that gets my my stomach, make sure you don't get any inflammation going on there. So cooking this will take a while. As you can see, it looks like we got like a bubble going on with the whatever that was, like ginger or something. I'm gonna like take the spatula to it and try to get it wet. I might end up adding some water here in the early stages, the relatively early stages. After adding a little bit more water to it and stirring it, this is what it's all looking like right now. And now it's time to put it back on the burner here. So I will say that I think the whole product would have been thirstier if I decided to add chia seeds powder, which this time I did not, but yesterday I did add a little bit of that stuff. So I'm not sure if this is something that should be a main part of my diet or not, but I think I kind of like this stuff overall. What I was doing was I was pouring one of these jars. See, this is empty now. Into that jar right there. So there was some leftover powder. I don't know if you'll be able to see much. But anyways, I poured out the rest of this, or as much as I could anyway, into the frying pan yesterday was what I did. And that's why I ended up using some of this. Because I was like, this is only a small amount that's left over. Let me just pour that much in and see if I like that amount or not. Like, if I were to take In this measuring cup, for example, a quarter cup, I would definitely not even put close to a quarter of a cup of this into the food. I feel like that would be way too much. So I'm not sure how much I want to put in. So, yeah. Anyway, maybe like 1/8 of a cup. I'm not sure how much that was that I put in anyway, and whether or not I like that much, or if I want more or less or whatever. Anyways, as you can see, like I bought that set for like a little bit more than $1. Maybe I could have bought more expensive measuring um, utensils that might have had more of a variety of measurements to work with. Anyways, the food is getting ready to I want to start flipping it now. I guess if I wasn't cooking an entire, frying pan wide section of bread, then I might wait just a little bit longer before flipping it. But yeah, we're gonna come up with multiple pieces no matter how we try going about this. So starting flipping it now would be fine. So, anyways, usually I would try to use 2 hands here, but I have to use the phone with 1 hand. So I like to sort of make like an incision towards the middle or something. And then like get quadrants going or whatever we're calling that. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Like I was trying to pick up this whole quarter and it only ended up picking up about 1/8 of it or so. That's annoying when that happens. But that wasn't too bad. Sometimes it turns out a lot worse when I'm trying to flip some of the stuff over. But I think the more you delay and let it like heat up, the more it comes together and the easier it is to flip it. But I'm not like trying to like get a bunch of things burnt too. I'm also like it's weird. Like I don't know like the timings for stuff. I think it varies too because sometimes the ratios of the ingredients changes. And I will say that when I'm using teff and not buck also as a primary ingredient, I think that changes the stability and like the time to cook and all that a lot just by having buck in addition to teff. So anyway, something to get used to and something to try to figure out. You guys probably can't see that very good. I'll just flip that over. Some of this remnant part is breaking off. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier, what I was more like expecting to happen. You guys didn't even get to see it. Anyway, we got about 1/8 of this left still unflipped. Not accounting for remnants breaking off. So I'm just sort of like scraping the spatula on the side here. I don't know how you can see that, and then just sort of getting it back off of the edge. This is really hard to do one-handed. I'm trying to get this 8th part flipped over. There we go. Oops. And as you can see, I kind of messed that up because that part ended up bumping against this and flipping back over the results. So just like do that, I guess. There we go. So at this point, what I'll do sometimes is I might add a little bit of water to the bottom here just to make sure it all doesn't burn or whatever. And I probably end up licking the spatula again. I think adding the water is a pretty important step here because it really I feel like I'm cooking it all like too thick essentially, and the water just allows me to like sort of make up for that. Allows me to continue to cook it thick without anything burning. Now, I could try increasing the fat content, but I'm not absorbing fat very well right now, so I don't think that would be a very good plan, right? Because like I end up having diarrhea or something if I try to put in too much fat into my food. Anyway, so yeah, I flipped that part over, maybe this too, and some of this I haven't really flipped over. And just you could see if I flipped it over or not, because it's got a little bit of this, whatever you call that. Not quite burned yet, but it's sort of like a Maillard effect or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it. Anyway, so I see this is kind of on the edge here, and scrape it off, get it back in there if I can. Sometimes I fail and it ends up on top of the stove. But anyway, time to work this. And drop it from my tongue into the frying pan. Scrape some more on the bottom here, because I don't really feel like doing that all the time. And there's still some there. I'm going to lick that remnant off. And it's kind of hard to scrape this part of the frying pan, so what I'll do sometimes is I'll scrape it with my teeth. So we got a little bit more off of there. Obviously, teeth is definitely not an optimal solution for that, but basically the best my mouth can do. Now, I will say when you're cooking with the turmeric, it kind of makes it harder to tell sometimes if some of this is cooked fully, because it kind of makes everything more yellow than it otherwise would be, for the most part. But I think we're pretty much like done with basically everything at this point. Should probably add a little bit more water and let it heat for another couple minutes or something. I don't necessarily have to add it, but I just feel like I'm just gonna do it anyway, just a little bit. Alright, just do a little bit more water in there. And so do some scraping on this. Oops. Nice and slow. And another thing I could do is I can try to like flatten this to get it cooking better. But then what ends up happening is I get more stuff to the spatula usually. Oh, not really all that much on there, so that's good. And a lot of this on the spatula here is mostly cooked pretty good. But once again, it can be hard to tell with turmeric on there, but definitely more well done than it was before. So I'm not really that concerned about whether or not I end up licking it off of the spatula right now. And putting it back in the frying pan is not critical at this point, with the amount that has been cooked already. So I'm just go ahead and make sure the water can go where it needs to go. Sort of like, I don't know where it's trying to go now, but try to like parts in the middle like really wet. Trying to make it go to the right hand side there, and I just didn't want to go and blocked by too much of this stuff. Anyway, so yeah, once again the camera angle maybe not the best. As you can see here, we're pretty much done. I guess I don't know what you would even call this. It's not exactly a pancake since it's in, you know, so many divisions already as I'm flipping stuff around. It's nothing like, it's not exactly, it's like nowhere close to oatmeal or anything either, because there are individual chunks, kind of like cookies if you want to call it that. I guess you could call it pan-made cookies or something. I don't know. That's kind of a weird bit of a stretch to call it something like that, but fried cookies. I don't know. Maybe. But anyways, this is okay. So there's just one thing I got to do left over, and that's what the burner looks like. It's obviously much cleaner than those. That's why I've been using it, and I don't want to be bothered with cleaning those. Anyways, so we'll push this thing out of my way a bit. We got this plastic from the butter container that I'm trying to move out of the way too. You don't want melted plastic on the bottom of the frying pan because that gets awkward fast. We'll grab this bag and throw it up to the top shelf there. Alright, so we got this glass bowl here. So usually I would use two hands with this. So I'm just like, get the food into the bowl. It'll slide down, I'm sure. Nope. And it's some of it's starting to flop over a little bit, which is kind of scary because then it could end up flopping and like bouncing out of the bowl. I don't want that necessarily. It's going to be very delicate with this. You can see I have this one hand here doing its best to make sure that we have good control here. There we go. Again, you can make sure this hand's actually doing its job. Visuals. Ugh. Ooh, that part looks like it might be trying to get out of the bowl. I think we're fine. Ooh, did you see that part? That part up there? Almost got out of the bowl. Ooh, that slid over very nicely. Very good. Nearly done. Oh, I think we can tilt it over. It'll be fine. Okay, yeah. Oh, that was really close. Do you see how? Oh my goodness. It breached the perimeter. It breached the perimeter. We're fine. Just push it back in. Alright. So, this is what's left in the pan. You can easily scrape that and try eating it. It's amazing what you can do one-handed if you're really dedicated to the process. Alright, that'll do it. So I'll just set this over here, where there's some like paper and cardboard or whatever. And now my food's basically done. So now, if I wanted to save some of this for later, I could put some of it into one of these containers. This is like big enough for all of this pretty much. Anyways, with the lid on it, it would prevent water from escaping. And if I plan on eating this hours down the line, that would be my preferred way of eating it. I'd have it in one of these containers because then I don't lose all that moisture. Right now, I don't mind eating it fresh. But if I couldn't eat it fresh, I would want to prevent the moisture from escaping so that way it doesn't dry out. Like, I can eat it dried out, but I just prefer not to. In fact, when I woke up this morning, the first thing I did when I was streaming, or as I was starting streaming, I was like eating some of this food like leftover, and because of the nature of like there's a decent amount of fat in this food, I can get away with letting it dry out like that and not having eaten it for hours. But if I had a lid on it, I want to be careful how many hours I leave it out, side of the fridge or whatever, because in the moisture, it can get really smelly eventually. So anyway, but with the fat content, I'm not really concerned about it at all. Trying out, that's for sure. Anyway, so this is when I pick it up and take it to my room. I guess we're done recording. So eating this is not something we really need to show off, but that's definitely something I'm going to be doing.